how do I know if I'm messed up? In fact, a lot of them used, how do I know if I'm effed up? That was the number one question. So, Dr. Nicole LePera, how do we know if we are messed up?
I'm going to answer this in a little bit of a cheeky way first, and then I'll give some a little bit practical things. I have yet to meet an adult who isn't in some way carrying some of the wounding of generations that came before us. I've yet to meet, for many different reasons, very few of us have had that safe, secure, connected, curious, attuned, soothing relationship from a grounded, safe, secure, connected, soothing, or a person who's able to self-regulate in their early childhood. So I think the large majority of us are carrying, and I wouldn't, messed up, effed up, whatever you want to call it, human is, I think, a better way to think about it. We're carrying the remnants of all of those who came before us wired into our mind and body. I think in terms of relationship, if we want to apply this, because we are relational creatures, a lot of our messed upness can be seen in our relationships. I think if you notice yourself feeling numb, feeling disconnected, or maybe on the other side of that, saying and doing hurtful things that you don't mean. I think those are indicators. I think another indicator, finding yourself chasing unavailable people in friendships, in romantic partnerships, or on the other side of it, bouncing from relationship to relationship yourself. If you notice yourself regularly shutting down or withdrawing in relationship or when you're around other people, or on the other side of that, repeating cycles of chaotic or intense behaviors or experiences. I think a common one that we think is passion. I have these high explosive arguments, crazy feeling arguments, and then this passionate makeup sex afterward. I think secure, grounded connection is secure, calm. It's grounded. And I think another indicator that often we see in relationships is if we self-sabotage them, if we push people away, as I had done for many years when we really wanted them close. Or on the other side of that, if we struggle with any distance or space in relationships and feel responsible for someone else's needs, like the caretaker I was describing earlier, or responsible for someone else's emotions, as I played many, many occasions in my past relationships. So I think relationships is a great place to realize what our dysfunctional patterns are. I wouldn't say that that's an indicator that we're messed up in any way. I think that's just an indicator of what we learned in our earliest relationships, and then we can create change in all of those respects.
You know what I love about what you just shared? One of my great intentions for this show is for people to feel less alone and more enough. And I think a lot of people feel like they're alone when the overwhelming number of people that literally their question is, how do I know if I'm messed up? How do I know if I'm effed up? And I think that the answer is every single one of us is, but we're not actually that. We're actually just human. Right. So if you're feeling all of these different things, and in the explanation you just gave, I don't know anyone that wouldn't fit in one of those examples. I almost feel like there's comfort in this and knowing like, okay, you're human. You're human. And we all have our different journeys of that. So, okay, this is a good one. How do you know if your therapist is good?
So I think therapy has been studied to the extent that researchers are very interested in what are the factors to determine good therapy or successful therapy.
Yeah.
And research, I believe, has landed on the most number one predictor of whether therapy is good or will be impactful for you is the relationship. How safe and secure and connected you feel in relationship to that person. So then that, I think, allows a much more kind of individualized answer to this question, which can really be simplified by, do you feel like that person that you're going into week after week is a safe, secure, curious space where you can begin to explore yourself? And for a lot of people, I don't think that happens immediately on the first session. I think a lot of us have wounding from early relationships where maybe we did share things and it was used against us. So allowing that possibility that it might take some time for us to feel comfortable being vulnerable and opening up.
Yeah.
Though, is that person present with us in the room? Are they a secure or consistent, I should say, connective space where they're curious, allowing us to then work through that discomfort. But yeah, research shows it's going to be very individualized. So I could go to a therapist and be like, oh, this person is so great. And this is why I'm hesitant always to give recommendations or referrals, though I get asked quite frequently, because it is so much about the individual and what they need in that room to feel that safety and that security.
So is feeling safe and secure with your therapist, is that more important than they've got to be really smart and know what they're talking about? Is it like when you look at what the study show to know, is this working or is my therapist good? And is that because you need that safety in part just to be able, which is part of the whole process of having that space to kind of share it all?
I think all relationships, as I write about in How to Be to Love You See, come back to safety and security, whether it's your romantic partner, your family, your friend, or your therapist.
Yeah.
That is the foundation of connection and ultimately of attunement. And I do think a lot of us, though, look for the degrees or the training or the letters after people's name. And it's interesting even to watch the field itself expand. When I was deciding my training program to be a licensed clinician, essentially to have a practice, you had to get either the PhD, the clinical PhD that I received, or a degree called the PsyD. It was kind of the psychological version of clinical practice, if you will. As time continued, and now to this day, there's other helping professionals, other degrees, other coaches that can create that safety and that security for individuals. So that, I think, is the foundation, aside from degrees or letters or training programs that people came through. How able are they to be present and attuned and give you the opportunity to let down that guard however long it takes?
I feel like that is so clear. And I've never heard that before. I think, for me instinctively, I think, oh, I want to make sure that they really know what they're doing, that they're next level, that they're a top performer. And I think that this is kind of a big breakthrough because a lot of people don't know, how long should it take before I start seeing results in my therapy? I feel like I'm going to it over and over and over, and I'm just talking, but is anything happening? And how do I know if my therapist is good? And I think that this is a big kind of clear data point to say, do you feel safe in that room to be who you are, to say all the things you feel, and to use that as a top indicator of, is this the right fit, versus just, am I going to the person who has the most impressive resume online or whatever it might be. And would you say, Nicole, that the way to do that is just like to tune into your body and be like, how do I feel when I'm in this session? Do I feel like I'm just completely who I am? How would you say you can judge?
I want to acknowledge that therapists are human too.
Yes.
So they will be human in the room, and some very well intentioned with all the education could be having a reaction that is, you register, right? They could say something directly in response to something that it is that you say. They might give you the feeling that they're not fully comfortable with something. And I would see this a lot with my colleagues who I was trained. I did a lot of training in substance use. So a lot of my clients would use substances at any point, or like kind of across their recovery process, and would have pretty severe diagnoses. So I was really comfortable with seeing whoever really it is that walked into the room, though I would hear very directly in supervision circles from some colleagues who wouldn't want to see a type of person because it would make them feel insecure, ill-equipped, and probably, refer them out for their own best interest. Though just imagining the feeling in the room. So back to your then question, Jamie, which is, our bodies are sensors. We will, if we're connected to ourselves, even like you were describing earlier, there's moments of misalignment when I feel tension, when my muscles begin to clench, when my heart rate begins to race, when my breath maybe becomes really quick and shallow, or I'm holding my breath when I say something because I don't know how the person is going to react. If I don't feel at ease in my body, if my muscles don't feel at ease, if I can't get a deep breath in from my belly, if my heart rate is not in that normal range throughout, of course, when we're sharing something new and vulnerable, we might feel that spike initially, especially if we're not used to. But over the large majority of our sessions or time together, Are we able to, and I do think a lot of people gain that from the clinical experience. They come into the room and it's almost as if their body just feels at ease. They kind of melt into the chair and they just feel more open to the conversation. Though our body will always tell us when something is aligned, when something is threatening, and giving, again, the therapist the compassionate gift of humanity. Like I was saying, not every therapist might be aligned for you and for the type of work that you want to do with them, though it doesn't mean that there's anything inherently unworthy about you. They're a human too. They might be carrying their own past experience that is impacting their ability to receive yours.
You know, for someone who knows right now there's something off in their mental or emotional wellness, what exactly should they do right now? What is the recipe that you would give them to do right now?
The first thing I would offer is a suggestion to celebrate that awareness. So we walk through life so blinded. When we become aware that something is off, whether it's in our own relationship with ourselves and our mental or emotional wellness, or in our relationship with others, that's so important to acknowledge and celebrate before we shame whatever it is that we're coming to the awareness is off, because that's a huge step in the direction of creating change,
victory, right?
Of finding balance again. Of course, if there's helpful relationships that you can seek out for support, sometimes the most helpful thing you can do is sharing that awareness with a trusted loved one, right? Telling someone of this instinct that you're having, that there is something going on a deeper level that you might want and welcome support around. Going back even to this idea of offering help or suggestions, it might be helpful in that moment if you want a suggestion to let the person know, hey, I want to share something with you right now. I'd love to hear your feedback or your advice. Or if you don't, hey, I'd love to share something with you right now, and I would love for you just to listen. Because when we're being vulnerable by telling someone that we're entertaining the possibility that we're in need of help or support, or that something is off in whatever way, some of us might want that objective feedback and hear what someone else might do or what they can offer us. And a large majority of us might not. We might just want to have that space to feel accepted, to have someone just listen and tell us that they love and support us regardless of whatever it is that we're coming to the awareness of.
And so having that awareness is huge. Maybe sharing it with someone, and then what do we do?
And then, of course, if we can gain support in whatever way is accessible to us, I mean, depending on what it is that we're coming to the awareness of, finding the professional, finding the community, finding the tools and resources. Again, I think a lot of information is present in books these days, and in the kind of world wide web of information that we have access to. If there's something objective that we're needing help around and we know where to find it, of course, pursuing those action points. And if we're unclear, finding our way to someone, that can offer us that direction.
Jamie Kern Lima is her name.
Everybody needs Jamie Kern Lima in their life.
Jamie Kern Lima.
Jamie, you're so inspiring.
Jamie Kern Lima.